Welcome to the Niche Pursuits podcast. Today we are joined by Kevin Indig, who is the lead SEO at Shopify. Not only does Kevin have a wealth of knowledge about SEO as it relates to e-commerce, but he's got a past in affiliate marketing as well and interacts with brands right now a lot as they relate to these bigger SEO topics. We spend the conversation diving deep into the current state of affiliate marketing, especially as it relates to Google's numerous product review updates. Kevin deep dives into the things that need to be considered as you look at the way Google is shifting the landscape for affiliate marketers. We talk about the details of the product review updates that have come out and the ways that affiliate marketers need to adapt based on the data that he has seen and based on what Google is doing in these algorithm updates. We talk big picture about how to stand out as an affiliate marketer, specifically about how to compete against these bigger brands in the SERPs that have a lot of power when it comes to affiliate marketing, how you can still win in today's affiliate marketing landscape. Kevin shares a lot of nitty-gritty tips. We talk about FAQ schema, about people also ask boxes as they relate to featured snippets, a lot of other CTR tips for how to get better conversions from your buying guides, also how to get more clicks from the SERPs over to your buying guides. I joked at the end of the interview that it was kind of like running a marathon with the number of tips that Kevin really shared, the number of just the amount of knowledge he brought to the conversation. It's a really important topic because Google is, slowly or quickly, depending on how you're affected by it, they are changing the landscape of affiliate marketing. And Kevin has a really good top-level approach to it and view of it. And so I really learned a ton from what he shared today. This is a must listen for any affiliate marketers out there. I hope you enjoy it, and we'll talk to you soon. Today's show is sponsored by Ahrefs, an all-in-one SEO toolset. Do you wish you could get more traffic to your website from Google? Well, half the battle is understanding what you need to fix on your site first. One route is to hire a costly consultant, but we've all been there, we've all done that, and there is another way. What if you could get a professional website audit for free without having to deal with the salespeople or the consultants? And that's the power of Ahrefs Webmaster Tools. It's a free resource that's going to help you prioritize the optimization opportunities on your website, which in the long run means more Google traffic. You'll see which keywords your pages are currently ranking for. It helps you understand how Google currently sees your content, and probably most importantly, helps you discover what changes you can make and how those changes will help you blow up your traffic. Imagine what this could do for your business in the long run. So I use Ahrefs every single day at my marketing agency. It's a fantastic tool, really love it. You can learn more by visiting ahrefs.com/webmaster-tools. And again, it's a free tool, and we've included that link in the show notes for you. Again, go ahead and visit ahrefs.com/webmaster-tools. Thanks again to Ahrefs for sponsoring today's episode. How many times have you wanted to throw your computer at the wall because, well, SEO can be frustrating, and no matter how hard you try, you're still not showing up where you want to on Google. So maybe you throw money at the problem by outsourcing your SEO needs, and then you've ended up wasting money, and you're still stuck in SERP limbo, unwillingly hanging out on page 2 or 3, far away from potential customers. Meet Surfer, an AI-driven content intelligence tool that takes the guesswork out of SEO. With Surfer, you can do keyword research in minutes, create a 360-degree content strategy with their planner, write an article while checking your SEO content score in the editor, and monitor your progress with their audit tool post-publish. Let Surfer's AI focus on getting you to page 1 while you focus on growing your business and making your customers happy. Visit surferseo.com to stop worrying and start ranking. Welcome to the Niche Pursuits podcast. My name is Jared Bauman. Today we are joined by Kevin Indig. Kevin, welcome on.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, we've been kind of chasing each other for a little while now, trying to put this together. So it's a real treat to have you on, and I'm really excited for what we're talking about today. We're talking about affiliate marketing, but before we dive in, bring us up to speed on what's going on in Kevin's life, and maybe a little bit of background on you.
Yeah, thanks for asking. So I live in Chicago. Used to live in the Silicon Valley for 6 years. just shortly before the pandemic, moved to Chicago. So it's very cold where I am right now and very windy. All the stereotypes are true. But luckily I can work remotely, so I can just, stay at home and not deal with that. But all joking aside, I am director of SEO at Shopify. I lead the SEO team and a couple of other initiatives around organic growth. I've been in this whole SEO space for, it's making money with this for about 11 years now. Let's put it this way. And I worked at companies like G2, Atlassian, Dailymotion, Search Metrics, a couple of agencies before that. So that's where I am today.
You have quite a storied background. I have to say, I mean, the names that you've been able to reference are pretty amazing. So I'm really excited about what just your insights. Obviously, you see data and SEO at a scale unlike maybe what a lot of us see, certainly on an individual level, or even those of us maybe running SEO agencies or something. So I'm really excited to have you on board today. We are going to talk about affiliate marketing and maybe frame up today's conversation with your thoughts in terms of where you see affiliate marketing nowadays, especially from your vantage point.
It's a really good question, Jared, because I've seen a lot of change over even just the last 5 years, and I would go out on a limb and say that probably every affiliate out there feels the same way. So affiliate marketing, it's still alive and it can still work well in a lot of niches, but what we've also seen is one that Google tightens the screws on affiliate marketing. In December, they launched a product reviews update that made affiliates life a bit harder. Two, the affiliate payouts are fluctuating heavily. Amazon cut their affiliate fees quite down a couple of years ago. So that's been like a bit of a hit to the industry. And number three is just the aggregation of affiliates. So we see large players like Red Ventures, Dotdash, Wirecutter, which was acquired by the New York Times, basically going after affiliates in a much larger scale way. I mean, NerdWallet recently went public. That's another example. So there's a lot of accumulation and aggregation in that space. But in all these kind of three trends make it harder for smaller affiliates to stand out and be successful, but not impossible.
So let's dive into each of those, because I think each of those we could probably do an entire episode on.
Yes.
But still, let's talk about each of them. I think let's start with a Google product review update. And I guess maybe there's been several now. There was the initial one in April of 2021. There was a supposed follow-up in December of 2021. And I think there's a lot of confusion around where Google's going with this. And I could reference the fact that Google's now seems to have their own affiliate products in the SERPs now. We could talk about some of the confusing language they're using around how to reference affiliate products now and how to write about them. Let's dive into that topic. And I mean, what do SEOs do with these product review updates, especially going forward?
Yeah. I first want to paint the context a little bit, because I think it's really important with all the things that we talk about to share kind of the high level movement that's happening, right? We SEOs, we love our tactics and want the hacks and the little nitty gritty things. And I get that because it's attractive. But when you take a step back and see where Google is going, you actually get a lot of sense of why things are happening. So generally, if you look at Google, one thing that they're not doing very well, or haven't traditionally been doing very well, is e-commerce. And what we've been seeing since earlier last year is that Google is pushing very hard into the whole e-commerce and product space. So that means that they give products a stronger representation in the Google search results, right? Like there are more product listing ads, more Google shopping ads. There are different SERP features, different elements that Google displays and uses in the search results to make it easier for people to find products. So there's this generally high-level trend of Google just pushing more into that space, and they don't want to step back. And the reason for that is that Amazon is just making a ton of headwinds, right? If you look at what Amazon has been doing, they are now serving like more than 50% of searches in the e-commerce space are now starting on Amazon. And that's a huge problem for Google. On top of that, Amazon, one of the largest Google Ads spenders, one of the largest sites that ranks organically in Google search. So Amazon is really eating into Google's piece of the pie, and they're now slowly starting to push back on that and maybe in a more aggressive way. So that's kind of the high level overview. And then the product reviews update that launched in December was really about Google pushing affiliates to include more sellers, link to more sellers instead of just one. And then a couple of other things that they sell as recommendations, but we all kind of know that these are actually more, they're going to enforce these recommendations algorithmically, right? So there's less of a recommendation, it's more of a minimum requirement to play in that space. So some of the things that they shared is they want affiliates to share quantitative measurements about how a product measures up in various categories of performance. So they're looking for, like more data. They're looking for less opinions and more evaluations and analysis. They also want affiliates to describe how a product has evolved from previous models. So they're looking for a lot more depth about product information, and they're looking for key choices on how a product has been designed and their effect on users. So it's a lot less shallow information, a lot more in depth, and so they're looking for basically experts in a certain model. I think if I had to make that a bit more tangible, a good example is probably MKBHD, or there are many other examples, but just to pick one out, like he's really deep in the product review space, very focused on Apple products, been an expert in this. Another example, who's not an affiliate but a great example to make the point, is Ben Thompson, who writes about product strategy, but he can tell you about the whole evolution of IBM computer chips, for example. And it's really that level of depth that Google is going for here. I'm going to pause because I brought up a lot of different things, but that should just go to tell how competitive many niches are today.
If you notice me looking down, it's just me feverishly taking notes. So I think first off, I really appreciate the context, because again, you hit it off at the head of the interview here. Like, we get so kind of boxed in as SEOs, focused on maybe certain tactics and certain data points that inspire us, but the big picture of Google, of Amazon, of the battle that's happening in the SERPs, and then the subsequent product review updates. I mean, I'll just hit you with the question that I think is in the back of every affiliate's mind, which is, are they really going to algorithmically enforce affiliates linking to more than just Amazon? And is that possible, considering so many products aren't available outside of Amazon in a scalable fashion?
Yeah, that is. I think that is a part really where, if I had to make bold assumptions, I think that's where Google tries to push affiliates to, is to not only link to Amazon, right? Because there's still that kind of natural tendency. Is Google going to be able to enforce it algorithmically? I don't have I don't have 100% conviction on that, but I think it's very likely. I have noticed that Google just gets so much better in understanding the depth of content, understanding small little facts and pieces of information that are needed, that are required for users to be happy. And so I don't know about all the exact workings of how they get to that point, but I wouldn't be shocked. And I'm in touch with some larger affiliates. I've worked with some larger review sites. I've worked at G2 before, and so I can tell you that a lot of affiliates and bigger sites are already seeing the implications of these core updates, or these product review updates. So I don't think it's too far out there, but as always, the question is really, how are they going to tactically be able to distinguish between certain ways to formalize that? That's where it's hard to say. On large scale, yes, seeing that impact already today. At small scale, are there going to be ways to fake it or work around it? Probably, but that's where that's where there's a lot of nuance.
Right, always nuance in those areas. I'm hitting you with tough questions. I apologize to just scale you around. We're only like 10 minutes in here, but I mean, how would you recommend an affiliate? And again, most people listening are probably not large scale affiliates. Very often on their own, maybe part time, maybe running one site, maybe running a couple sites, maybe with a team. But how do affiliates at that scale? How do you recommend they handle this? Where do they start when it comes to trying to follow along in this guideline of having more than one affiliate program recommended?
Yeah, that's a great question. And so, I think there's a big shift in affiliate generally that is important to keep in mind. And that is that this idea of like a whitehead, like invisible affiliate or generic affiliate, that model is dying out. Mm-hmm. And what you see instead, the affiliates that are really successful are the ones that have a brand where maybe the person behind the affiliate site is very visible and is kind of front and center. At Shopify, we obviously have our own affiliate program. We also in part competing with some affiliate when it comes to the online store space and the e-commerce space. So we've actually been doing a lot of analysis there, and we see that the affiliates that are most successful are the ones where you see there's a person behind them, they're very specialized, and they have a brand, as opposed to this, like back when I started SEO, you'd see a lot of like generic keyword domains, and you have no idea who that person is, and they just use a lot of like blunt SEO tactics to go very aggressive and then make some money. And I think that model is dying out, to be honest. I'm not saying it's impossible. There's still niches in which you can run that, but I think it's a dated program. And so when you ask me how do affiliates how can they still be successful in that changing landscape, it's really those things. It's specialize, develop a strong brand that is recognizable, and develop that kind of expertise. I'm not even alluding to this whole conversation around EAT, which is a whole different situation. But it's simply the fact that some affiliates have their own YouTube channels, they're present on social, they have very good SEO content. This is all optimized, it's still driven by SEO, but it goes a step further. And that kind of brand factor seems to become so much more important.
We had a guest on the podcast a while back who is advocating that affiliates actually give multiple options to buyers. And actually, give them those choices inside of the of a website, of a page, a buying guide, or whatever you want to call it. You on the e-commerce side of things from Shopify would probably have some interesting thoughts about that. Do you have any insights, data, or just opinions on saying, hey, here's the product that I recommend, and here are maybe 3 spots to go buy it from, instead of just the one Amazon destination that a lot of people default to?
For sure. So one way to answer this question is really in the tactical execution. Like, how do you make sure you always reference several spots to buy products from? That's where like apps, integrations, like they're all moving toward that, facilitating that, making that easier. So I think that's something that with a little bit more time will become second nature and will not be the biggest problem. The bigger question is how do you integrate that with your content? And so one thing that I've seen is that the UX plays a large role. Successful affiliates, they don't just try to fudge in several places to buy a product. They have like a very nice module that displays the product, and then several sellers below that. And that seems to resonate well with buyers, which seems to have some impact on their organic performance as well. And now I'm going out a little bit on a limb here because there's a constant discussion and battle about what is the impact of user signals on SEO. So I'm not gonna go too far out there. But what I've seen, is that the presentation matters, the packaging matters, and then in terms of like what integrations people use, what apps and plugins, that's a whole different conversation that everybody has to answer for themselves.
Taking a step back from the details we've been talking about, where it comes to recommending multiple products and that sort of thing. Taking a step back again, though, to the big picture of these product review updates. You talked about how affiliate sites and affiliate site owners need to make themselves more prominently brand focused, better UX, an expert across multiple channels. What other, tips or recommendations do you have for affiliate site owners in the context of these product review updates that we've already seen and that are probably going to continue to roll out?
Yeah, totally. One thing that I've noticed is, so let's talk a little bit about like SEO tactics, because I know everybody always wants to, that's always important for the center.
There we go. Good.
Let's talk about like some tangible things that people can do. I've always talked so high level, right? I want to like leave people hanging. So one thing that I've noticed is that way too many affiliates don't invest enough of their time into optimizing description and title and testing that. There's actually a lot of really cool stuff you can do. Like, this is so underestimated and undervalued, because where it often ends is to say, okay, this is the optimal length for descriptions and titles. I'm just going to make sure I'm staying within that range. Maybe make it a little click attractive. I have the keyword in there, and that's it. But there's so much more cool stuff that you can do. And so when it comes to, for example, the the need for Google to link to multiple sellers, right? Like, what if you as an affiliate actually identify 10 different sellers, and what if you reflect that in your meta description, right? Like 10 different ways to buy, or 10 different spots, or always identify the lowest price. There's so much you can do there. Same with some of the qualitative measurements that Google referenced that they want affiliates to display, or how the product has evolved. These are all, they're not just doing that for fun, right? They do that because they make these requirements because they know that this is something that buyers want to hear more about or want to read more about. And so you as an SEO or as an affiliate, you want to ask yourself, how can I transpose that to a meta title or description and make that more click-worthy? Because what we've seen is that with more clicks usually come better rankings. Again, it's not the only thing here. I want to point that out, but there's a lot more to be gained there. And so optimizing meta title and description, trying to kind of communicate the value that you can provide in your content before users even click through, right? It could be something like what I've seen, for example, is like best X like product reviews, 600 hours spent evaluating in a meta title or in a description, right? Like these kind of things where you communicate that you've been going deep, you've done research, right? You've included a lot of data. That's something that most affiliates miss, and that's a huge lever. On top of that come all the SERP features that you can display in your Google search results. So FAQ schema, that's been a big one that was very effective in the beginning. Then Google limited to 2 results max per search results page. But there's a lot of information you can convey in an FAQ snippet. First of all, these still attract a lot of clicks. Second, you want to be creative and what other information you can park in these FAQ snippets. Review stars, that's a basic one that has been there for a long time. But then also when it comes to buyer guides, how-to snippets, super prominent on mobile, very under-leveraged in my mind, but draw a ton of clicks, a ton of attention, give you more surface and real estate to convey value and help users out. So that's where I think a lot of creativity is missed, and where too many affiliates over-focus on the content itself and less on how it appears in the search results, where users have to make a decision, have very short attention spans, and where Google already shows more information in the first place.
It's like drinking through a fire hose right there. I didn't even bother taking notes. I'll just go back and listen to that when we do it live. Okay, two questions, 2 important ones that came out of what you said. Number one is you wrote. I had this in my notes to ask you about. I was going to ask you later. I'm going to ask you now because you sort of referenced it. You wrote an article a while back about people also ask versus featured snippets, and some interesting data that you were seeing and really discussing on there. You just talked about how 2 snippets schema. You talked about FAQ schema. Can you talk about people also ask and featured snippets as it relates to affiliate marketers and give your insights there?
Totally. Philosophically, they're kind of at different ends of the spectrum. A featured snippet is all about the one true answer. It gets by far the most clicks. It really creates this winner takes it all space. People also ask, on the other hand, very different to that. They typically are tuned for engagement. So you find a lot of very provocative questions in them. They are now appearing much, much higher on the search results pages. And they offer kind of a secondary avenue for more sites to rank in the search results. So what I've noticed, so I've done this analysis. I ventured to like a large data set from Rank Ranger, who tracks these SERP features meticulously. And there are a couple of very, very interesting takeaways from this analysis. So to just shortcut to the results. So I looked at data over the last 3 years from 2018 to 2021. And I've noticed that, first of all, people also ask, SERP features are growing much, much faster than featured snippets. And so what that means is that more search results display people also asked features than featured snippets. That's very interesting. Number 2 is that just in general, the ratio of search results that have a PAA, which is people also ask box, is much, much higher than featured snippets. So in fact, over 5 times more keywords display PAAs than featured snippets. And so what that means for affiliate marketers and really any SEO out there is that we need to give those PAAs more attention and need to figure out how to rank in them, because they get a lot of engagement from users. A lot of users are actually clicking on them. Little side note, it's actually very hard for SEOs to understand how much engagement goes to these PAAs, because Google doesn't give us that information. Right. So that's that's like a common pain and a common problem. But they can drive a ton of traffic if you optimize for them. And the way to best optimize for them is obviously to look at what, where do they show up, what kind of questions do they entail, and then answer these questions in your content. And there are a couple of different tools you can leverage out there. Maybe to name drop one that I found really helpful, it's called Search Response. You can find that on searchresponse.io. Not in any way affiliated with them, no pun intended, or I just discovered them and they're really great and they're free as well. So that's one to leverage to identify the relevant PAAs for your set of keywords. So these things get a ton of engagement. They show up higher in the search results. They're growing faster than featured snippets. It really becomes a core part of any search results page. And you want to have a strategy in place for how to appear in these things because they get a lot of engagement. So
FAQ schema, how-to schema, work on PAAs and focus on them. These are some really great tips. I'm really glad we talked about that. Going back, and is my last question on the product review update topic that we have, because we have so much else to get to. But going back to the big picture, when you started the conversation around it, you talked about Google. I'm not going to try to paraphrase your words, but basically, hey, Google and Amazon are going at it in terms of Amazon's taking so much of the direct search that goes along with an e-commerce type of query. As affiliate marketers, we're getting more and more used to seeing Amazon, the product itself, actually ranking for, say, affiliate queries, best, review, versus. We're also seeing Amazon now produce sort of thinly worded buying guides that are also ranking. Anything we can do about that? Anything that you would say is alarming there, or any ways around that going forward?
It is a tough landscape to compete. I'm not going to lie. Amazon has invested a lot more in content. They're specifically sourcing content from their affiliates, which they then syndicate and sometimes, use to enrich their product landing pages, their category pages. So that's a kind of tough environment to live in. At the same time, Google shows more reviews about products in the search results directly and sources more reviews. So that's like a direct kind of battle that they're fighting over views. And so as an affiliate, the best way that you can do there is really to go deep. Where Amazon kind of sources high-level information, sometimes more shallow information, as an affiliate, the best thing you can do is to really develop deep expertise and kind of almost provide the opposite of what Amazon is doing, right? Amazon, very shallow information. They kind of try to abstract it to the most important things you need to know. Using an affiliate, you want to see, okay, how can I convey kind of the depth of my information, that I'm an expert, and how can I provide information that Amazon has a hard time aggregating? Mm-hmm. And that's really expertise. And let me try to make that a bit more concrete. So what I mean by that is, so Amazon, they syndicate some affiliate content, but they also have a ton of reviews, and reviews is really how they create a lot of their content. But those reviews are coming from buyers of the product who are not always experts. Most of the time, they're not experts. What you actually see when you look at Amazon reviews is that they try to surface the reviews that are most in depth. So they're trying to somehow surface that expertise on their own site, but it's really hard for them. And so that's your advantage as an affiliate. You want to write deep guides. You want to go really deep in terms of the information, make it simplify and decomplexify the information for your readers, but display how much you actually know about the product, which is also where Google tries to drive affiliates. So you kind of always want to do the opposite of what the big incumbents do. And because they have to aggregate all the information and source it from others, you have the advantage of being able to go deep and display the expertise yourself. I hope that's tangible enough for the audience. I don't want to just leave you hanging with philosophical advice, but it's really write long, in-depth guides, explain how you evaluate the product, what you know about it, go super deep and super long form.
No, it really does help. Actually, it helps. I hadn't thought about that before. What it reminds me of is, as an SEO, we're trained that when we see a forum post ranking in the top 3 or 5 spots for a query, we know we can take that that SERP down, right? With writing a piece of content that's on point and on topic. And I've always thought, hey, that's probably because the forum is a response to the question from someone who Google does not know whether they're an expert or not. And if you, as hopefully an expert in your space by Google's eyes, respond to that, they're going to prioritize your response. It kind of reminds me a bit of that.
Absolutely. Let me give you an example. So when you look for a query like best podcast mic, I'm just making something up because I have a podcast mic in front of me. Interestingly, you don't see Amazon ranking in the top 10, at least on my end. I'm querying this from Chicago, US. You see the classic SERP features like the top ads. You see some kind of aggregated products from Google, the top 24 podcast microphones. You see the map pack, like all the classic suspects. But then there are actually a couple of affiliates in there, like justcreative.com is one of them. And like what that is super long form content. I mean, I haven't like looked at how long this piece of content actually is, but I'm like scrolling for 5 minutes and it hasn't really stopped yet, right? So this is like one of the most in-depth guides that I've seen, and that's what I mean when I'm saying like this is how affiliates have to compete with Amazon, right? Is to like have that depth that Amazon cannot get and write super deep pieces of content that are, they have a good user experience. So they should have a table of contents. It should be very easy for users to find their key piece of information. It should be structured. It shouldn't be distracted by ads. There shouldn't be too much going on. And that's really the way for how to still be successful in affiliate in 2022, in my mind.
Oh, good example. Let's spend the second half of the conversation talking about you kind of almost teased it right there. How do you compete as an affiliate marketer? Again, we're going to go back to that avatar. We'll just talk about maybe an affiliate marketer who's listening, who has one website that they put their time into, maybe two. Definitely not authoritative like some of the bigger affiliate websites. Maybe Wirecutter is ending up in the top 10 results for their SERP targets, these kind of things. How do affiliate marketers compete against these bigger sites in today's world and going forward?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think I alluded to that a bit earlier, but there's some large aggregators or some like very large players that go after the affiliate market in a more systemic way, right? Wirecutter is a very popular example. They've been acquired by New York Times. They've been doing a great job leading up to that. Red Ventures has a ton of brand. They have Lonely Planet, Bankrate, Point Sky, Healthline, CNET, right? These are huge companies. Dotdash is another one. They're born out of what used to be about.com, which used to be like a really like large site, and that was killed by Google's Panda update. And then they kind of they created a lot of smaller brands from that, like The Balance, which has different variations, like The Balance Careers and so on. So, but that's really who we're competing with next to Amazon. And these are companies that have huge SEO teams, very seasoned, built their own tooling, have large content generation engines, right? So they do this whole thing at a huge scale, and they do this very, very successfully. And they really, next to some of the e-commerce players like Amazon, they really dominate the search results in a lot of way. So that's a major, other headwind that smaller affiliates are facing. And so the advantage that these huge companies have is that they can go after a lot of terms at large scale, right? Like NerdWallet is not a great example. However, the disadvantage is going deep in the micro. So imagine yourself being an SEO or affiliate or like a manager at one of these large companies. You're probably responsible for thousands of keywords. And so you optimize at a different scale, whereas a small affiliate maybe goes after like a much, much smaller set of keywords. Even if it's 50 to 100, which is, quite a lot, you can still go into more depth and react faster to changes in the Google landscape than one of these mega affiliates, I want to say.
So let's maybe example that out. Are you referring to, like going back to your best podcast mic? Would that be going for longer tail queries, or would that be going for the best podcast mic but going more in depth, or both?
Yeah, that's exactly the right way to think about it. I would suggest both, but the long tail is something that smaller affiliates can really optimize for, where it's much, much harder for these mega corporations that are going for head terms at scale, right? So right. That's a benefit you had. And another thing there is that when optimizing for the long tail, you can source a lot more information or a lot more potential queries from different sources. So, for example, if you're super deep in the podcasting mic space, you want to be in all the forums and all the Reddits. You really want to see what are the kind of topic du jours, that the big topics and questions that people are asking about. And you might even discover some queries that that have maybe zero search volume because they're so long taily, but that people are talking about this and are interested in this. And that's another advantage, right? Where these mega corporations, when they do SEO, they look at probably, I'm pretty sure they look at search volume, which is fine, but search volume is a very, very flawed metric. It can be very misleading. And so for the long tail, that's a competitive advantage. For the long tail, you can identify potential keywords in different ways through the Reddits, Quoras, forums, Discords, Slacks of the world, and then create content for that. That's something that a large player will not do.
Well, not yeah, because if it doesn't show up in a tool with volume, they're probably not going to have the bandwidth to deep dive those topics. It's a great point. In terms of practice, in terms of the practical execution of that, how important, do you think it is for an affiliate marketer to kind of build out a complete silo versus sharpshoot topics that are longer tail and not dominated by bigger players? And again, I think a question I hear a lot when we talk to people is, hey, I know I'm never going to rank for best podcast mic, so do I bother writing it? Or do I write best podcast mic, not because I think I'm going to rank for it, but because in order for Google to trust me to rank for best podcast mic for traveling, I need to write that. And then depending on your opinion there, like what order, how do we tackle those? How do we go about building that silo out?
That's a fantastic question. I love that. Because in my mind, my concept or my framework for that is that every short head stands on the long tail. So what I mean by that is you almost want to see the long tail as sort of like the base of a pyramid with the short head at the very top. And in my mind, the best way to demonstrate your expertise, not just to Google, but also to your audience, is to start with the long tail and then become more short heady, or like then cover more mid tail and then short head over time. And that, in my mind, is the best way. So you eventually want to write for the short head keyword, but I wouldn't start out with that. I don't think the chances are high to compete straight off the bat. I would much rather develop a strong base with lots of long taily articles and then slowly lead up to the short head. We'll probably also make it easier to develop a better audience or an audience that recognizes the brand more, because shorthead is where you have much less competition, so much higher success rate, and then you slowly build up to that shorthead keyword.
Yeah, you get that. You're much more likely to rank quicker for those longer tail topics, which gives you that nice energy boost. Getting traffic is nice.
Yes,
especially in those early days, if you're just starting off a website or just starting off in maybe a new topical silo of sorts. So, well, let's talk a little bit about affiliate marketing and how it can intersect with e-commerce to kind of close off our conversation. Obviously, you being the lead SEO at Shopify, you work with e-commerce brands and site owners on a daily basis. And how can affiliate marketers do a better job of integrating with e-commerce brands? Again, so many affiliate marketers just default to whatever's on Amazon. How can affiliate marketers, work better with these e-commerce brands that you're seeing every day?
Yeah, the best deals are actually straight with the brands themselves. So if you can get to an exclusive partnership, or even just if a brand doesn't have an official affiliate program, but you can figure out a partnership with them, those are the best deals. They're more high touch. They take more time. They need more, like outreach and time investment. But those are way better for many different reasons. At the end of the day, Amazon is also just a middleman between some of these brands. If you really think about it, they just aggregate a lot of inventory, which then pulls in demand, but they also have their third-party seller program, which means they just take a cut from the whole process. So when you develop this expertise, which is really the whole, everything we talk about is just going deep into the niche and establishing yourself as an expert, you should sooner or later either hear from some of the brands in that space, or you should reach out to them. So as soon as you get a substantial amount of traffic, whatever that means in your space, you get some key rankings, you want to reach out to some of the other brands that are competing there and see, hey, should we talk about some sort of a stronger partnership that we can develop outside of even some of the bigger affiliate platforms, right? Which are also taking a cut from the whole deal, I think that's great. Not only because you can like straight up just make more money from that, but also because you might get more exclusive material or announcements or information. And that's how to like really build a bit of a competitive advantage in that space. If you have a good relationship with the key brands in your niche, you can really like do a big job, a big part of the job for them, right? And eventually just drive all the demands straight to them, right?
Yep.
So you almost become a mini Amazon in that niche.
What are the best ways for an affiliate marketer to make themselves attractive to an e-commerce brand? Is there a certain way to reach out, or a certain type of thing to offer? Is there a certain things that e-commerce brands maybe look for more or are attracted to more that an affiliate marketer could utilize? And I'm almost also thinking, by the way, maybe for someone who isn't quite there yet, but can start to focus on this over the next couple months or the next year to then position themselves really well for that sort of an opportunity.
Yeah. An aggressive way to go about this is to like almost like look what keywords that brand is ranking for, and then go after these same keywords. That's a very aggressive way.
Yeah.
A less aggressive way is to just simply like you want to demonstrate how much business you can bring to brands. That's what they really care about, and that's where you find these win-win deals that work for both sides, right? So, a lot of e-commerce brands, they have a lot of challenges at their hands. They need to care about logistics and procurement and their suppliers and some refunds, some customer service, right? Like marketing is just one of 50,000 things that they're dealing with. So if you can take that load off their plate and show them how much traffic you can send them, or how much business, that's a good deal. And then of course it really depends on like what your requirements are, how much you want from that, what the margins are. But if you come to a brand and you show them the keywords you rank for, the traffic you can potentially send them, that in itself is often enough to get a good conversation started, because they can on their end then figure out how much lifetime value that gives them, or how much, what the margins are under that deal, and if that's attractive to them or not. What doesn't work well most of the times is just saying, hey, by the way, I rank for this keyword. Should we have a partnership? That is often a bit even too abstract for many e-commerce brands, especially the smaller ones. They really care about the traffic and the business. So if you can show any click-through rates, any affiliate link clicks, any of that stuff, that's most attractive to them. And if you tie a nice package of information, send it over to them, you very often get on the phone with someone or in an email exchange.
That's great. Those are great tips. Do you ever see a use case for an affiliate website to actually maybe host their own products on it, and maybe add a Shopify component to their affiliate site so that they can sell products directly?
Yes, absolutely. I think you can go downstream the market, where you might start as an affiliate and you just build your own shop on top of that. Depending, really, I think in e-commerce it's much more simpler. In SaaS or something like that, it's almost impossible. But in e-commerce, yeah, sure, selling your own products, absolutely valid. Actually, I think it's a nice evolution of an affiliate project, where eventually you just simply become the brand yourself. The challenge is when you have established partnerships with other brands and you start competing directly with them. That's something you want to communicate early, balance, manage. There's a risk involved, no doubt. But I think in terms of margins and revenue over time, it makes a lot of sense if you want to take an affiliate project to the next level. I also think, on top of that, a lot of affiliates think too one-dimensional in where and how they can sell, right? So their website is only one way, but what about email newsletters? What about YouTube channels? What about maybe podcasts? So, if I were an established affiliate in a space, I would ask myself, what are other little platforms or little surfaces that I can create or serve to address a larger audience or audiences in a different way?
That's a great point. We just had a guest on. I interviewed yesterday. Actually, I'm not sure it'll go live before or after yours, but that was really what the whole episode was about. Talking about how, hey, you've got this traffic, and as affiliate marketers, we're so prone to just put our heads down and take 3 or 4% from Amazon and move on. There's so many other monetization avenues that are at our disposal with this hard-earned traffic.
Right. And that's just another way to build a competitive advantage, to build a model that's very lucrative for yourself. But again, it takes that expertise and establishing yourself. It's almost impossible or very, very difficult. It's like a white label or generic affiliate.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you got to have a brand. Yeah, going back to what you said earlier.
Yeah, it's all
Uh,
connected.
it is all connected. Hey, I've got you for in the last couple of minutes here. Maybe I'll just take us back to a couple top level questions as it relates to affiliate marketing, and a couple good ones to close us out on. How, as things are evolving, how important is it that affiliate marketers maybe focus more on user intent than ever before, especially with how they write their content and they pick what content to write?
It's absolutely crucial in my mind. I would go as far as saying that it's a gateway to rank for important keywords today. So reality is that you can rank for thousands of keywords today if you get it right, and that's because Google really measures every page against a user intention. Whereas like maybe like 5-6 years ago, they used to really look at the exact keywords that people were looking for. So user intent, absolutely crucial. It is often simplified to a too large degree. So what I mean by that is most SEOs or affiliates speak about user intent as information, transaction, navigation, maybe like 4 categories, but that's too high level. The way I would think about user intent is really in a very nuanced way. So when people, look for best podcast mic, what are they actually trying to achieve? They're actually, if you think about it, if you think, or put yourself in the shoes of a searcher who would look for that, they probably don't have an exact understanding of what they should be looking for. Otherwise, they would look for best USB podcast mic or best, like these specifications. So that's really how you want to think about user intent. It's where are searchers coming from? What are they really trying to get to? I would argue that people looking for that query, they either want something that they can quickly set up that just quickly works. They're probably not going to buy a $500, $600, $700 advanced podcast mic. And how can you reflect that in your content and in your title? So if you actually look for some of the results for the query best podcast mic, they really try to convey that value. So one of the top 2 results, the title says best podcast microphones for great audio, in parentheses, all budgets. And that really, alludes, that's how you address user intent. It's not just making sure you cover that keyword. It's thinking about what are people looking for and trying to achieve in the context of the keyword.
That's great. Yeah. So it's not just about, hey, our users searching for this query in an individual article or as a part of a bigger article. It's actually about how you write the article.
Exactly.
Yeah. Final question from me, and I'm guessing you have some at least strong opinions, but probably even data to support it from your Shopify experiences. I don't think affiliate marketers pay very much attention to CTR, click-through rate, not only on their, we'll call it titles or getting people from the SERPs to their pages, but then once on their pages to the products that they're offering. Or at least a lot of affiliate marketers miss out on CTR tips and ways to get conversion and click through better. What are your tips or any tips for affiliate marketers on that?
Yeah, it's a great question. So number one is some of the tactics we spoke about before to just increase, like to widen the top of the funnel by getting more people to click through to your site. And by the way, even if you rank number 1, you still want to squeeze out more of that clicker. Number 2, when it comes to your site, what I see a lot of affiliates do that are not doing this as good as they could is they try to convert users right on the spot. Reality is that in some cases, people they need more information before they're willing to pull the trigger. And so you want to get a better understanding of, are people actually converting on that specific page, or are they clicking through another page, or are they maybe performing a search on that page? So you want to just learn more about, are people getting all the information that they need on that page, or do I funnel them to another page and then try to have them click through the affiliate link on that other page, right? So what does the user journey look like on my website? And that can then really increase click-through rates. So I think like if you can get about 1% of your visitors to convert by clicking on your affiliate link, I think that's already pretty good. That's already pretty decent. But there's fluctuations from niche to niche, right? There is in some more higher priced affiliate niches, you have much less traffic, but more willing people who are clicking through the affiliate links because it's so specialized and so high priced. So, take that with a grain of salt.
That's great. Yeah, yeah, it's a good point. And that's where, again, understanding the user and their intentions really well comes back to having a higher click through rate, higher conversion rate. So,
Yes.
Kevin, I feel like I just ran a marathon in about 45, 50 minutes here. So I don't even know how you feel. Thank you so much. So much good information. I think this is one of those ones where I know I'm going to go back and re-listen to it at least once or twice. I'm going to guess a lot of people are going to come out with pages and pages of notes. Where can people follow along with what you're doing? Obviously, lead at Shopify, but where can people keep up with what you have going on?
Yeah, thanks, Jared. I really enjoyed the questions. The best way to follow me is on my website, www.kevin-indig.com, INDIG. Same on Twitter. I use my real name on Twitter. I write a weekly free newsletter, which is called the Growth Memo, where I kind of share my observations, sometimes strategies, sometimes tactics about growth, specifically organic growth, with a lot of SEO sprinkled in there. And then I have a podcast. It comes out like once a month. It's very conversational. It's called Tech Bound, where I talk to some of the best in growth and how they don't just grow the companies that they work for and with, but also how they grow themselves.
Wow, a lot of places. That's awesome. I did not know about your podcast. I'm going to sign up.
Yeah,
for
it's
that
still growing. Still growing.
Good. I love it. Thanks so much for coming on, Kevin, and really appreciate it. Thanks for all the knowledge and all the value you shared.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Jared. This was a pleasure.
Again, a big thanks to Ahrefs for sponsoring today's podcast. Ahrefs is an all-in-one SEO tool set. They help you get more traffic from Google by helping you understand what you need to fix on your website. Now, you could hire this out to a costly consultant, or you could go and hire an expensive audit agency, or you could use the power of Ahrefs Webmaster Tools. It's a free resource. It's going to help you prioritize those optimization opportunities on your site. In the long run, that's going to lead to more traffic from Google, which is a good thing. The tool helps you see which keywords your pages are ranking for, helps you understand how Google is seeing your content, and helps you discover how making changes can blow up your traffic. Imagine what this could do for you in the long run. So again, thanks to Ahrefs for helping us with the podcast today. And you can learn more about this free tool by visiting ahrefs.com/webmaster-tools. Again, that's ahrefs.com/webmaster-tools. How many times have you wanted to throw your computer at the wall because, well, SEO can be frustrating. And no matter how hard you try, you're still not showing up where you want to on Google. So maybe you throw money at the problem by outsourcing your SEO needs. And then you've ended up wasting money and you're still stuck in SERP limbo, unwillingly hanging out on page 2 or 3, far from potential customers. Meet Surfer, an AI-driven content intelligence tool that takes the guesswork out of SEO. With Surfer, you can do keyword research in minutes, create a 360-degree content strategy with their planner, write an article while checking your SEO content score in their editor, and monitor your progress with their audit tool post-publish. Let Surfer's AI focus on getting you to page 1, while you focus on growing your business and making your customers happy. Visit surferseo.com and stop worrying and start ranking.